Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So I have Bella here today. Just good morning, Letty. Good morning, Barb. So just before, um, and Jesse, you too. Good morning. Just before it was time to go on the air, she decided she wanted to be held. So I'm over here. Oh, and you can't even see me. There we are. So I'm over here, very quickly trying to set her up a bed that sits right next to me in case, I can set her aside like now. All right. So this week, this week, we're going to talk about ways that we can look at a design, or excuse me, look at a graphic and make a determination as to its stitchability before digitizing. And this is important. This is important when you outsource your digitizing or are at the counter with your customer um, and they have a graphic that they need to have digitized for the work. You need to be able to look at that graphic and without too much effort determine its stitchability. Here, I'm going to give you, oh gosh, she's pretty insistent today. I'm going to give you a sample. Hold on. I'm not really good at this whole scrolling thing. Let's see. Let's start with this one. So here, this is a pretty standard left chest logo. Now, the image that you see on the screen, that is a 4-inch, 4-inch wide. Usually a left chest logo is about 3.5 inches. But, sometimes you can go as wide as 4. And of course, on larger shirts, you might want to go larger. But for the standard, Bella, you got to stop. For the standard, 4 inches. And we know it's 4 inches because I have created a 4-inch block that goes around it. This allows me to know that left to right, this is 4 inches. So you're looking at this, and we're going to make this larger again. You're looking at this, and what do you see here? You see a larger circle area. You see some lettering off to the left, excuse me, um, off to the right. And then you have this line of text underneath here. Can anybody tell me what might be the issue regarding this smaller text? While you're thinking on that, I'm going to do a little typing here. Do, do, do. So I'm just going to use a simple block. Oh, and that's in lowercase. Let me try that again. Mgentement. Am I the only one that sounds out the letters when I'm typing? Yeah. Of course, I spelled that wrong. Okay. And Letty, you're right. It's not going to stitch cleanly. It's going to be too small. Um, Barb, yes, that's exactly right. The readability of the small text, it's going to be too small. Remember, social distancing put us at 6 feet from everybody. Your standard bubble distance is 3 feet. So you want this to be legible at 3 feet. To have a legible text at 3 feet, you need a 5 millimeter lettering. All right, ready? This is 5 millimeters. This tiny line is 5 millimeters. It measures out at over 5 inches. So in order to read this, in order to see this legibly, it's going to be too long. So at the counter, when you're talking to this client, and this client presents you with this logo, this graphic, you need to be able to look at this and say, you know, this tiny text is going to be really small and you're not going to be able to read it and it's not going to stitch well. Can I make a suggestion? And then do that. Either suggest leaving it off, but if it's an important part of the message, remember, logos are all about sharing our message. If it's about sharing the message, maybe we should consider I agree with you, Barb, but as you know, as we all know in this business, sometimes the customer is going to say, but it has to be there. It has to be there. So if it has to be there, we need to try to work within its limitations. And what we ultimately did for this customer, oh, Letty, that's an awesome idea. Letty's suggesting that they move the tagline to follow the sleeve edge. Now, maybe they don't want to go to that expense because, you know, that is another hooping, which makes it another fee. It's also a separate file, which makes for some editing. But just like Barb, I agree. I like that. But this is ultimately what we did. We took the preserved prose and we, Bella, gosh, she's insistent. We took preserved prose and we moved it down underneath. And to fit in our 4-inch space, we did take the, we did take the size down to 4 millimeters, which is still good at a, um, it is still legible. It's going to stitch well. We will adjust the density a little bit so that it's the stitches are not so tight and it's not so gummed up. Um, of course, we'll use a different underlay. We'll use a center run underlay for anything that's under 2 millimeters wide. And when I say 2 millimeters wide, I mean the column stitch. So looking at this, this is what we need to be prepared when our customers come to us and say, here is my logo. We need to be prepared on how to analyze that logo at the counter or on behalf of the digitizer, whether that's an in-house digitizer or you outsourced. We need to be able to analyze that logo at the counter and make suggestions or determinations as to what will and will not work. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, this is actually, you know, it's a pretty decent piece. It's all text. It's pretty standardized text. It's going on a hat. So that means, and unhide, Come on, where is it? Unhide. There we go. That means I use my hat template and then I size my graphic down to fit within the parameters of my hat template. This hat template includes, I don't know if you can see it, it includes sizing for a left panel, and it also has seam allowances noted. So yeah, let's put this back here. So they want this to go on a hat. We now have it sized for the hat, so we can get rid of our template. What do you see here that might cause an issue in the digitizing? Remember, it's only going to be 2 to 2.5 inches tall, depending on your stitch capability, your machine's stitch capability. What do you see here? And while you're doing that, gotta set the puppy down again. Go on, girl, sit down. And we're just going to use a basic block font. We're going to type out the word family because that is our smallest lettering. Okay, we'll bring it over here and we'll size it up so that it fits. Oh, we'll go ahead and give it some angle. That's a bit much. There we go. Let's go ahead and change the color to something bright and fun. So Letty is suggesting that we use the 2 lines, but the square won't work well. Right. And I didn't mention this. We're not doing the orange background. I think the customer that brought this to me wanted the orange background to represent the hat color. So that the family, when they made their decision as to the styling of this hat, they know that they were going to stitch on an orange hat. So we're not going to do the square. We do need to, because this is the message of the work, we do need to include all the text elements. Because it's going on a hat, an orange hat, they want the white outline. Okay, so based on that, we're going to use that. Let me see if I can just find a bolder font. Only because the font in the word family is pretty wide there. We want to emulate that. There we go. Okay. So here's the problem. The border is the problem. I'm going to spread this out a little bit so that we've got some space here. I'm going to enlarge this so we can get right to the word family. And we're going to do some measurements. Now, I know it's going to take some time to develop an eye for this, but you need to be able to look at the design, the graphic, and make a determination as to how wide those borders are. You also need to remember when you're doing this that the border needs to go under the body as well as stick out. Now this border is only 1 millimeter, less than 1 millimeter. And if we put a 1 millimeter, oops, let me go to the right place. That's a column. That's a column. And we make this one. If we put a 1 millimeter line here, and then we have to put a 1 millimeter line on the other side, we go up just a little bit closer. I turn off the graphic. Our stitch lines are going to land one right on top of the other. Yes, we can probably pull one of them out a little bit. But still, that stitch line Letty's asking if we could change it so that it's more like an underlay than an outline. I'm guessing you mean more like a running stitch or a triple run stitch. I'm going to move these. I'm going to come up here and pick up a triple stitch. The thing about using a running stitch as a border, and especially on a hat, oh, that was the wrong stitch, and especially on a hat, is the registration. A lot of times, that was potential spam. A lot of times, it'll shift. Remember, push and pull is going to come into play, and depending on how you do this, your outline is going to shift away, or your letter is going to shift away from being from matching the outline. So as a digitizer, oh, and that's why I put this up here. I wanted to show you. Okay, so as a digitizer, I'm going to go in. Come along, little doggy. Oops, sorry, I have a little doggy, don't I? We're going to change this to a 1 millimeter border. Let's change it to something hot pink. Okay. So, of course, when you're using a system tool like here, before you finish it off, you're going to go in and make sure that everything's the way it needs to be. This is an auto placement of a border, which is, not dark enough. So it's an auto placement of a border, and you're going to want to go in and make some minor edits to make that work. So if we do this, well, that doesn't actually look too bad, does it? There are some things we can do. That was the wrong direction. Oh, yeah, the A didn't like it. But we want to be careful so that we're not putting stitches on top of stitches. Ultimately, what I did, I use that word a lot, don't I? I use, let me go back here. We're going to get rid of all of this. This is what I did. Unhide all. Bring it up. Instead of using an individual border, I used a tatami fill that laid underneath the lettering and stuck out on the edges. And I did that for the word reunion also. The rest of them worked out okay. Now, to go back to Letty's suggestion, Let's see what this looks like if we put a running stitch border on it. Triple run. Of course, we didn't need it on the Y, but and that may have worked. But again, we're going to have some shifting. The only way we can prevent the shifting is to slow down the production. And that would be to stitch the letter L, stitch the outline. Stitch the letter I, stitch the outline. Stitch the letter M, stitch the outline. Okay? Now it can be done, but for this particular client, this customer, production, large quantity order, they wanted to make sure that they could get it done fast. Okay? Here's another one. All right. So here's the graphic. What about that graphic makes you go, no? What about that graphic makes you say, yeah, I don't know? What do you see there? All of those individual bits and pieces up here, around in here. That's going to be a monster to stitch. We stitch 6 stitches here. You got 3 to start, 3 to finish. If it's less than 2 millimeters, it's not going to auto trim. And we go over to the next dot. So you have to make the decision. Of course, you want to consult with your customer. When they come in and they put this on your counter, you're going to tell them what you see regarding this image that may not work for embroidery. Another example is the black outline going around these letters. The letter themselves is in some places less than 5 millimeters wide, so it's not going to do very well with a border. The splashes are not going to do very well at the size. This one here is actually going to be sized at a left chest placement. So we did it with a 4-inch left to right. And this is what our finished product looks like. You see no outline here. Let me go up here and change this color so that you can see it. As you can see, we have the splash elements, but we don't have so many splash pieces that it's going to be an issue to stitch. We have a couple that are off to the side here, but they're larger. We have some more down here, but they're larger, and we try to keep them close to get the trims. Yes, Barb, that would be wonderful. I think, in my opinion, a graphic like this, I think would look much better in transfer, a print transfer versus embroidery. But again, we work with our clients and our clients want embroidery, so we're going to give them some ideas of what can and cannot be done by looking at their graphic. It did stitch out well. They were very happy. They came back and asked for it to be enlarged to a jacket back, in which case I did add a lot more pieces because, again, with a jacket back, oh, let's do, we have a lot more space and a lot more room. And that border here, yeah, that border is now almost 5 millimeters. So it would be easy enough to do. Oh, where is my mouse? There it is. And you're right, Barb. The virtual stitch out looks good, and so does the actual test stitch. So the customer was very happy with this one. Let's see, we have one more, I think. Okay, here's one. This image came to me with the instruction for left of center hat. Come along, little doggy. Unhide. There's our hat template. I haven't done, sorry, Letty is suggesting that she wants to do a comparison sometime between embroidery, white toner, direct to film, and sublimation, and then wash the product a few times. In my world, I only have the embroidery and the white toner. I suppose I could hire out and get a DFT transfer and a sublimation transfer and do this. Um, but I agree with you. The washing needs to happen because we need to make a real life experience. And if you're doing embroidery on a shirt, it's going to it's going to be worn and it's going to be washed and it's going to be worn again. And yeah, that's the exact idea. And we might have something like that coming up, maybe. Just another idea. Okay, so this artwork, they want it to fit in the left of center hat. Now, from our previous conversations, we know that for the lettering to be legible, it needs to be 5 millimeters. Shall we see what this one sizes out at? And again, I'm just going to use a simple block. Now bring my my keyboard up here. Oh, sorry, that's 10. We don't want 10. We want 5. Yay! Okay. And of course, they have it arched. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Okay. So we're obviously not going to get 2 arches. So that's not going to show. And even so, that arch is going to be a bit big. Don't forget, you've got a seam here. This is that center seam on your hat. Do you realize that there's actually 6 layers of material in the seam? There is. There's the white lining that you see on the inside. Now, not all structured hats have all of this. Um, but the higher quality ones do. You have your lining on the inside. You have their buckram, and then you have your outside fabric. All 3 of those layered together get folded at the seam. And then they also get stitched down with usually a tape, uh, a seam covering tape. So that's actually, gosh, that's actually more. That's actually more layers. When I do a left of center, I try to avoid getting anything on that seam. People have a hard enough time stitching left of center that they don't need the issues of that seam. Now there are times that I have people that say, yes, make it wider. I've got 3 inches here. All right, I can do that, but you may not be happy. When I looked at this artwork, and again, this was before I took it into software. When I looked into this artwork, knowing the size it was going to have to be, I told them that the lettering was going to be too small. That if they wanted, I tried to tell them that left of center is not the billboard. Left of center is the walk by sticker that you're going to stick by. It's supposed to be a visual recognition of the logo. So in this case, it's not so much the custom printed apparel, but the G that represents the logo. Now, if we look at this close, we have some diamonds here, diamonds in the columns. In order for this column to show, you need to make the gap wider. This is all stuff that you have to take into consideration at the counter. Our file finished is unhide, fit. This is what we did. We know that the satin is going to shrink. It's going to pull in. So we have our wider gap. We have our diamonds. We have our visual representation. Okay. So, oh my goodness. I got carried away here. Before we go any further, I want to show you a packet that I put together for those that are interested. I have samplers that I've developed. For example, this is a hat front sampler. The sampler tells you how many characters at what millimeter size. The bottom one here, social distancing legibility. This is a 5 millimeter letter. You can get 30 characters on this line. We go up a couple. This is a 7 millimeter letter. You can get 21 characters on this line. The next one is a left chest, or excuse me, left of center. Again, it gives you an idea of what can and cannot be stitched. These are samples that you can stitch, and when your customer comes to you and says, listen, this is what I want, and they're not understanding the size restrictions, show them. Remember that big board we did a few weeks ago? Yep. I'm going to show you how I set this up. We have 40 millimeter text. This is text that uses, I'm sorry, not 40 millimeters, 40 weight thread. This is a sampler that you would stitch out using 40 weight thread. This is that same text, but you're going to use a 60 or a 70 weight thread as a comparison between the two. This next one is applique borders. When your customer comes in and says, I want this done in an applique, but I don't want the borders, explain to them that the border is used to cover the raw edge of the fabric unless they want a raw edge, and why it needs to be as wide as it is. And the last one I have here is a 3 millimeter lettering. This lettering is only 3 millimeters. There's no room for satin. So why am I showing you all of this? Because there is on my website, and I'll post everything on my YouTube, there is a coupon code for samplers at Quick to Stitch. Let me go back there. Here it is. On my website, under digitizing services, under stock designs, it's located in a couple of places. Easiest place would be to find it in miscellaneous. If you go to that product, it has all of these files in it. All of the files are available. And if you use the coupon code, come along, little doggy, samplers Q2S, samplers quick to stitch, it's yours for free. So you can set up your samples. Now, again, I'll post all of that on my YouTube. So what did I do to create my samples? Well, the hat samples are obvious. We're going to stitch those on a hat. Set them up so that the customer can see them at, what distance, and they can read it and decide, oh, yeah, that's too small. I'm not going to be able to read that. Now, the text samples, I create a sampler board, and I use just this corrugated plastic. It's signed plastic. You can get it at the hobby store. You can order it on Amazon. Just cut it to size. I then stitch up my sampler. In this case, I used a cotton muslin with a cutaway stabilizer. And I did not remove the stabilizer because I feel that gives it makes a layering. And I just taped it to the board, like wrapping a package, framing up a picture. All right. So now when my customer comes in and I tell them, yeah, that lettering is really small, it's not going to be legible. And they say to me, but it has to be there. I can pull out my board and show them what a 3 millimeter text looks like, or what a 5 millimeter text looks like, or a 10 millimeter. Those are available to you guys. That's about all I have. Sorry, I went over. I do want to mention that I'm going to do some print experimentation using my Juliet die cutting machine and some specialty papers that I received. And it's my objective to present this to you next week in a way that you can use it in your embroidery. I hope you tune in. I'm thinking that I'm going to do some recording, warts and all, all the mistakes, everything that go with that. And if you have any ideas, any suggestions, any thoughts, send me an email, send me a message, reach out on Facebook, reach out on YouTube. I'm always here. Jesse, thank you very much. I'm going to go over here and say goodbye.
Wasn't that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.